Alright everyone, we start off today with a brief announcement. I was actually wrong, forgot what day it was. It's actually tomorrow that I fly out for Europe. So yeah, I'm still here. I don't know whether I'm going to live stream today though. I get travel anxiety, so I didn't sleep well last night either, even though I realized that I had an extra night here. And so that kicked in a little bit early, so as an insomniac it's a bit of a problem. But yes, I'll be in Europe for a week, and it's time to eat some bitterballen and cook a lot. But Manhattan judge, we'll start off today with the actual news, predictably refusing a delay or a venue change in the Alvin Bragg persecution case in Manhattan. Trump's lawyers had argued the fairly obvious. Let me state the obvious for everyone once again for the 1000th time. Trump is not going to get a fair trial in Manhattan. Manhattan is overwhelmingly liberals. Now, the problem is that liberals within the public have been indoctrinated into believing that Donald Trump is the more retarded version of Hitler. If I was on a jury, and they can claim that they can be objective all they want, just look at the evidence, that's perfectly fine. Everyone's fundamentally going to claim the same thing, unless they want to get off jury duty. By the way, jury nullification. Yeah, if you know about that, in most states you're ineligible to serve on a jury, actually, because no prosecutor is ever going to allow you to sit in on a jury when you might nullify the verdict against the defendant in a criminal case or something like that. The problem is, put yourself in their shoes. I know that they're wrong, but let's say that you were led to believe that a person, and you're sitting on the jury, the defendant, is an existential threat to your nation. So it becomes about more than just the case. The fraud case, be damned. It becomes a measure to try to stop them for a greater societal goal. And this is why, arguably, Trump really can't get a fair trial anywhere in the United States. Lopsidedly, most places are either fairly red or they're fairly blue. In an area that's quite liberal, predominated by Democrats, you have a bunch of people who think that he is the devil, basically. Well, they're probably going to lean towards finding him guilty even if the facts aren't there. And the jury is capable of doing so, by the way. A jury can effectively ignore the evidence completely. As long as all of the jurors on the case fundamentally agree, they can pretty much decide whatever they want. Yeah, we think he's guilty. Yeah, we know that he's got a huge amount of exculpatory evidence, but we just don't like the bastard, so we find him guilty. If you were to move the venue to a very red area, or even a swing area probably, Trump would be found not guilty. You would have predominantly people who believe he's being legally persecuted. They might look at the evidence, they might agree that the evidence is actually there for the fraud case. I mean, I know I wouldn't because I'm biased, at least I can admit that. Most people apparently have a problem with doing so. But they could look at the evidence, say, well, yeah, he did commit fraud. But we don't like the fact that Alvin Bragg upgraded them from misdemeanor to felony charges, so we're not going to find him guilty. Or they might say, but it is legal persecution. Yeah, okay, he committed business fraud, but it's like a small amount, it's years ago. We want him elected because we like the Big Don, so we're going to find him not guilty. You would have to go to some buttfuck region in Amish country, where none of these people own a TV, and you would have to have the trial there. By the way, Trump would probably prevail there. He seems to be well-liked among the Amish. Probably not without good reason. There's no way that he can possibly get a fair trial pretty much anywhere. D.C., Manhattan, Chicago, a place like that, he probably gets found guilty, and that's my expectation in this case. In the middle of Wyoming or North Dakota, he probably gets found not guilty. That would be a better venue. Of course, I want to see Trump reelected. I would point out, though, with the Letitia James case especially, that's separate from Bragg's proceedings. If she starts seizing his property, we'll be talking, I think, later about, if I do a live stream, we'll be talking about Trump's bond and the appeals court decision there. I have a feeling that's just going to boost his support into the stratosphere. Pretty much all the independent voters without TDS will flock to Trump. It'll be millions of people, I think. I think they're shooting themselves in the foot. And if they jail him, God, that'll be the icing on the cake. I'm almost hoping they're crazy enough to try to do so, but I suspect they would prescribe house arrest and, suspend the say you have to remain at the Mar-a-Lago, basically. Well, I mean, as long as he's got access to a phone, he can still make Rumble videos and say, look, look what they're doing to me. I'm a billionaire former president. What the fuck do you think they can do to you? The Alvin Bragg case is moronic. and has been since day one. The mere fact that they broke the 250 years of legal precedent to persecute a former president over fraud charges that are not even meaningful is hilarious, number one. That they were artificially upgraded to felonies, number two, is also amusing. And this has to do with the hush money payment. So the allegation is that Trump effectively committed business fraud. He had checks that were being written out to Stormy Daniels, basically shut up and don't tell anyone that I fucked you, as though Donald Trump of all people would care. Me no think so. I'm not so sure that Trump, the legendary playboy of the 1980s, really would care if people knew that he had fucked Stormy Daniels. I can't imagine it would have done any political damage to him at all, but inexplicably he thought apparently that it would. And so he had his lawyer make payments to Stormy Daniels, but he wrote him off as this is a business payment. And so he committed fraud. And this is why Alvin Bragg upgraded the charges. This is why he had the latitude to do that. Because he's like, well, normally that business fraud would be misdemeanors. It wouldn't be that meaningful. Restitution, maybe a couple nights in the hoosegow. But he used that specifically to cover up another crime that was committed, and so we're upgrading these, 20 charges or something like that. Inexplicable and ill-reasoned. With every new case, Trump has gained support. I've seen some polling that suggests, well, Donald Trump will lose a significant amount of support if he's found guilty of a felony. I don't think so. I think he would gain support on net. Yeah, he would lose the support of people who are already uninclined to support him. His supporters, meanwhile, would rally around him. And I think that a lot of independent voters, if they see, again, the former president of the United States with artificially upgraded charges, having his properties seized, being, well, not bankrupted, but being bereaved of a large amount of his income by various state and municipal entities, I think they'll put two and two together, and more people will come to the understanding this is persecution. By the way, this is the doppelganger of what's happening right now in Brazil, of all places, where the socialist government there has been repeatedly raiding and imprisoning people associated with Jair Bolsonaro. This is third world stuff. This is the sort of thing that we don't typically associate with developed countries. Under Bidenomics, arguably, we're becoming less developed, so I suppose that this move makes sense. This is Joe Biden's administration with a wink and a nudge trying to imprison their political opponent because they are goddamn terrified of him. It's being led by what we generally, in the colloquial sense, call the deep state. It's a fusion of various media firms, the legacy media mainly, and entertainment to an extent, actually, and infotainers, certain so-called influencers, political wonks, political figures, lawyers, banks, and so forth, and of course parts of the legal system. This entire gargantuan, abominable apparatus is being weaponized against one man. And I'll posit the same thing that I've said before. Either I have to believe that every person that I know is dirty, corrupt, and evil in all of society suddenly said, well, there's a big danger to our republic. All of a sudden we need to go from being Joker to Batman. And they all grew a conscience and they're defending our republic, or those people are still dirty and they're uniquely fixated on one particular individual in his small inner circle because they are terrified that he will break the toys. The latter, according to Occam's razor, is much more simplistic. Expecting tens of thousands of high-level corrupt individuals that you know are corrupt to suddenly grow a conscience is much more hard to believe than, hey, Trump actually believes what he says. He genuinely does give a fuck. It's partially for egotistical purposes. They used to have legacy media articles iterating something that's fundamentally true, which is Trump wants to be loved. Well, how do you get loved in a republic? You do well. You try to balance the economy and not start wars and things like that. You try to make sure that society is stable and wealthy and thriving. These other individuals don't care about that. They've got their slice of the pie and that's enough for them. That's about all. Peace out.